Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
What up? What up, dude?
Oh, what's up, bud? So,
How you doing, man?
ready?
I'm ready.
I'm doing pretty good.
Our
Uh,
is
just
the other dude the other Mr. 25? Is he
oh
gonna?
yeah, Strophium. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Strophium.
Oh, you're definitely saying it
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. I don't know if he's here. But yeah, I gotta thank him. He's huge.
Is,
Helped
did
me pay for this.
did he want to be in this too, or like sit in the call?
Uh,
Or do
no, he just said that he just said that he wanted to watch.
okay.
I messaged him a while ago and I told him when I scheduled it. I don't know, but I mean, I know it'll be uploaded.
Yeah. Um.
He'll see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strophium, we love you, man. Strophium's a
Oh, yeah.
good dude.
Huge dude.
But yeah. I guess anyways, dude. Welcome. First of all, and go ahead and tell me. Just you might have told me this before, and if you did, I apologize. It's just I sometimes forget. But go ahead and tell me your race and your league, and kind of just a general. You don't have to be super specific. Just like a general idea of how you like to play the game, like play styles.
All right. Well, I'm Cop Crusher, and I'm a Diamond Protoss as of an hour ago,
Oh,
and
damn! Congrats.
decided not to play any games for the next hour, so I could look good on stream.
Okay.
I don't really play a lot of RTS. I'm more of a fighting game player.
Okay.
I played a lot of Dragon Ball Fighters. I got top 200 on that game, but I'm living in a dorm right now, and there's no Ethernet, so that fighting games pretty much aren't going to happen for me. But I learned that you can play StarCraft with really bad internet, and it's pretty tolerable.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Okay.
The only problem is I'm not super good at RTS games. I'm used to like the APM, but I'm not used to like the amount of crap going on.
Yeah.
Like all the multitasking. I'm used to like my one unit that I just do all the stuff with, but not having like multiple things going on. I feel like I'm getting better. I recently started winning some games against my best friend I played this game with, and historically he's always had a number in this game. I usually know what I'm doing wrong when I look at my replays, but I want to get some input and see if there's anything that I'm like missing.
Yeah. No, makes sense.
I tend to play more defensively, but I'm looking to put on some more aggression. It's just the whole multitasking aspect. I feel like I kind of lose control when I go for something like, I don't know, like try to hit his base with like an oracle or something, and now I'm floating like 500 minerals. Like, well, that probably wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But I know that stuff kind of just comes with time. But
It definitely does. Yeah. I think a lot of the game just comes from like, it's like honestly like any game. There's always patterns in every game, and the more comfortable you become with patterns in StarCraft, the faster you'll play the game, the more efficient everything will feel. So it, like you saying, for instance, there's so much shit going on. It won't feel like there's so much shit going on if a lot of things just become kind of automated for you, which is the goal. Go ahead.
Another thing I feel like I'm not really like super good at right now is scouting. Just like telling myself when I need to scout.
Thank you guys for
and
the support.
Also knowing what I see when I scout. Like I watched your whole Bronze to GM series, and I feel pretty good. Like looking through like Bronze to like Gold, I'm like, oh yeah, I see what's going on. But then you get to Platinum, and you see like an SCV like walk towards a mineral line, and then you say like, oh, well, this is clear like a 3-2-7-5 push.
Yeah, I know that one.
Like, I don't know how you figured that out.
Yeah. So a lot of times in like things like that, there's things that make sense and things that don't make sense. So, for instance, like just to put it, and I'm gonna give you an analogy. Okay, I love analogies because they make sense.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if you're walking down the street, and you saw a man in a suit with a briefcase, walking on the other, like he's walking on going the opposite way of you, and he just walks by you. Would you question that, or would you be like, that's normal?
That's normal. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I would say it's normal. But now let's say you see a 12-year-old kid with his legs, like the pants are like over the shoes. His shoes are like slamming on the pant legs, and his sleeves are like way over the hands, and he's like trying to hold a briefcase and it's dragging on the ground. Would you say that looks normal?
I wonder where his parents were.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just something seems off there, and that's exactly that's the kind of shit that you can tell by the timings of when someone does something in StarCraft. So, for instance, if an SCV shows up at your base at like 1 minute 30 or like 1:40, something like that, you're like, oh, okay, this doesn't seem too crazy. He's probably doing like a barracks scout. It's fine. But if someone shows up at your base with an SCV at like 42 seconds, you're like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, what is happening here? Like, why is this weird? So you have
Yeah, or
like
the infamous drone scout.
exactly, yeah. Like if
I always
someone
question that.
if someone does shit that's just awkwardly timed, it makes you feel like there's some shenanigans going on, like maybe a
There's
cannon
some
rush or something like that.
there's some things where I do get that feeling, but then there's other things where I just don't see it coming.
Yeah.
Like I know like you see like you went over a lot of times in the Bronze GM like when they go for like a Terran goes for like 1 Rax and 1 gas and then expands. And so like I see 1 Rax, 1 gas, and a depot. I'm like, yeah, this is probably an expand build. But then there's other times where I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's why you got to
So
confirm it
some
too. If you,
yeah,
confirming stuff is nice, but a lot of times too, semi-confirming, like if you confirm what is there so far, you can also confirm there is not certain things out there. So for instance, if you ever played a game and you were like, oh, I got proxy 4x'd by Terran the other day, it sucked. Like that was, I just died. I don't know how to deal with that. And let's say you scout a Terran's base and you see depot Rax gas at his main base, like it looks normal, you can already rule out the fact that it's a 4x proxy because that is not the same thing. Like, so just because like you can indirectly scout what they're not doing by scouting what they are doing. There is a little bit of overlap sometimes where you just have to kind of know how much money they're capable of having. So although if someone like goes for like a standard depot Rax gas in their main base, it definitely does not mean that they're going to go 4x proxy marines and maybe SCV pull, but it still could mean they might go for like double Rax proxy with what looks like a standard build, but now instead of taking a natural command center, they throw down like an extra 2 Rax across the map, and it's still going to be double Rax proxy with a 3rd Rax behind, and it's going to be like 3 Rax Reapers. Or something like it still could be that, which is why you'd have to do something like, for instance, like if you scouted, you know, like let's say you took a natural, you went like 1 gate expand or something like that, and then you scouted the Terran's base, and he does not have 1 Rax command center, and you're like, all right, where's your money going? And like you scout into his base, and you see nothing there, or you see 2 depots like already done, and you haven't even started your 2nd pylon yet. Then you could be like, okay, something fishy might be happening.
Yeah,
like, definitely.
Where's the rest of his money?
Yeah, like so he might be hiding some shit. This is, like he might be putting a command center deep in the back of his base. So when you play against shit like that, if someone does something that is not as efficient economically, but they want to trick you and make you think it is, all you have to do as Protoss to like counter this is literally just allocate chrono boost defensively, and then you're still gonna play macro oriented, but instead of like chronoing probes, you could just chrono stalkers, and then you're gonna take a little. Yeah. You just take like a little bit of a deficit economically, but like still overall, you're still going to be ahead because chronoing stalkers is still less inefficient than if he like puts a command center way back in his base and then floats it over to his natural for like 20 seconds.
Oh, I usually go for like a fast robo and start chronoing that. But you think I should just
no, that's also fine. That's fine too. Like immortals would be fine. The point is a little bit of extra defensive play is all it is.
Yeah, there are some times where I know that it's something aggressive and I still can't hold it, but I feel like that's just because I haven't been playing for very long and I don't really know. Like I can go back to my own replay and look and be like, oh well, I wasn't building units at this point, or like I should have built more. So some stuff I can figure out on my own, but some stuff I'm not too sure about.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, that's what we'll definitely try to help you on here. So I guess if you want, I don't know if you have replays prepared, but if you do, we can jump into some of those.
I don't have any. I didn't pick any that were all-ins actually.
Okay. It's all good.
I have a couple of games that I played against my buddy.
If
he's also Diamond. We're both around the same level.
Just know if there's something specific you want to focus on, like if, for instance, if you're like, I really want to know how to deal with an all-in, and if like you want to make your builds efficient, but you also want to know how to not die to all-ins, we could also go into a game right now live where I would play you and I would all-in you. I'm not gonna go GM level all-in. I'll try to make it as fair as possible. I'll do what I think is capable of lower level players, and I could do all-in you, and then we could talk, like, you know, based on whatever happens, we could go over that afterwards and talk about what you did and how to improve it. So it's really up in the air as to how you want to take this. If whatever you're interested in, or if you just want to get generalized good macro advice.
Yeah, I kind of want to just look at like a average game from me, just to like see if there's anything like blatant that I'm like doing that's
okay.
That's like, or like some things that I could do better or in different order.
So the best.
Yeah.
Okay, the easiest way to probably send me a message then and just get the party going, because the chat system on StarCraft 2 sucks, is if you're already on BattleNet, just click your profile avatar portrait in top right, just left click it, and then it'll open up your profile. On middle left, hit ladders, the middle button,
Are you telling me to add you off the Grandmaster?
Yeah.
list?
Yep,
I
just send
already
me a
did
message.
that.
Okay, and you can just send me a message then, because I don't have you.
Oh, okay. Find you again.
Right now I'm 90. If you have to go through that again.
Yep.
There you go. Nice. And then I'll make you lead, and then you can just host at the replay.
Yeah.
And then before you start it, just make me lobby host to the replay.
Make you lobby hub. Oh, like
Yeah,
so
once you have the replay started.
hit watch with others.
Yep.
All right, so I picked a game that I played against my buddy yesterday. Oh no, this was earlier today.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
no.
it's all good. Just restart it. It's all good.
All right. But it's just a regular macro game, and then I ended up losing. I was going into skytoss, ended up losing to like Hydra, what was it, Hydra Viper, and like a Spore Crawler Forest.
Sure. Sounds good.
So I restarted.
So is this one of your buddies in real life, or is it just someone you know on StarCraft?
Yeah. This is my buddy in real life.
Does he come over and smoke weed all the time?
No, I don't do.
Okay. Okay. I just like his name, Kush Step.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this right this time. So watch with others.
Okay.
And now, oh, I
Perfect.
see. Here we go.
Nice. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we'll definitely talk about how to clean up your build.
Right.
And so this game specifically against Zerg, if you play against Zerg, what is your general game plan against Zerg overall? Like, if you could just like sum it up really fast.
Go for Colossus and try to wall off my bases with gateways, get static D up, and attack.
Okay. So are you gonna be like kind of like a Stalker Colossus kind of guy with maybe some sentries?
I usually only just get the 1 sentry.
Okay. That's totally fine. That's
tried-
fine. That's fine.
I've tried doing like the immortal push, but I'm just not that good at it.
Sure.
That's not...
I will say this though, if you play against Zerg and you play against Zerg with Colossus, I think right now you don't necessarily need sentries at your current level at the moment because you just got into Diamond, as you said, like so you're coming fresh out of Plat.
I would consider myself like Plat 1 D3.
That's fine. But I will say if you're gonna still go Colossus builds in the future against Zerg, you have to you are going to have to start using sentries. And I would say this is probably going to start becoming a problem for you throughout Diamond League. Like, we're talking like once you get to like upper Diamond 2, maybe Diamond 1. If you don't use sentries against Zerg, they're going to punish you for it.
Right.
So, if you want to... Go ahead.
I've seen... so you're talking about like with where you go for like a bunch of force fields, like so your Colossus can't get surrounded?
Yeah, and you don't have to get a lot of sentries either. We're talking like maybe make 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
And then that's just, again, exactly, it's just going to be so that you can actually control the ground with Colossus and buy Colossus, because what it does is it buys Colossus time to actually do damage. Because if a Zerg player knows how to macro, they're going to have more supply than you, and they're going to run you over.
Oh, and also another for my like game plan, I also try to go for like the skytoss transition.
Sure, that's perfect. That's if you do that as well, that's amazing. That means that by now I would say here's how I would say to improve your gameplay. If like from what I've already heard, if we just start incorporating a little bit more sentry use for you, that'll take you all the way through Diamond League. And then if you also can now perfect that, and then now on top of that even further, you can then add in the transition of skytoss once you have control of the game with Colossus. This will take you all the way throughout Masters.
Yeah.
Like that was
something that.
Go ahead.
Something that my buddy is always telling me is like when I lose games to him, he's like, "Well, I think you just should have." Like I feel like I don't attack enough, and I just let people like.
That's what sentries give you the option to do.
In this game, I think at the end of the game, Jake's on like 7 bases, and I'm on like 4.
Okay. Just know this too. Okay. Just keep this in mind. If you go for skytoss transitions, don't ever let a Zerg player tell you that you have to attack more.
No, you think that's wrong?
The reason why is because I'm going to guarantee you right now, the only time you're ever going to run into a Zerg player that's going to make you feel like your life is hell if you go Skytoss and you're like, wow, I just can't beat this guy. Like, Skytoss feels weak here. The only time that's going to happen to you is if you start playing Zergs who are like 5.8 or like 6k plus MMR. Like, it's not going to happen until then. Every Zerg below that, like 5.3, 5.
What is that?
Like,
What
we're
is
talking
that,
about 1,000 MMR, like 5.3 thousand, like 5350 or like 5k MMR or like 4750. Like right now, if you're Plat 1 to Diamond 3, you're probably like 3,500.
Yeah. something like that.
Yeah, some I don't know exactly, but something around there. But you were like 2,000 to like 2,500 MMR below when this actually becomes a problem. Which means the easiest way to explain this in a way that everyone gets easy without having to know the number is you're not going to run into Zergs who can actually deal with skytoss until you run into Zergs who are like in the top 50 of Grandmaster. So like even Zergs who are like lower GM, you will crush the shit out of them with skytoss. Zergs who are Masters League and Zergs who are Diamond League, you will easily crush the shit out of them with skytoss. It's really just, can you get there? So if you don't attack the Zerg and your goal overall is to go skytoss, it's not the worst thing ever. Because if you actually have good control with Stalker Sentry Colossus, you'll be good to go. Because your goal is not to just sit on Stalker Sentry Colossus the whole game. It's actually to go skytoss. So we'll talk about this more as we go through the game. But once you get to that point of when you're like high supply and you have actual control of the game, of at least your side of the map, you can start taking fights and start taking trades where you start to slowly lose supply in your ground army and you replace it in air army.
Right.
And you know, it could be defensively done or it could be aggressively done. Either way works. But it just honestly, this is very true. If you ever get to skytoss, if this happens, and you actually have like a formidable size of it, like we're talking like you actually have like you get to a point where you have like 100 supply in a skytoss based composition. It's not like 20 supply. It's like literally like 100 plus. That point, you can A-move the Zerg and then just control your Templar while you A-move and throw out like 1 or 2 storms and the game's over and you just won the game. I guarantee that'll happen every time. It is so hard for Zerg to deal with that, and you have to have very good micro to be able to counter that.
Right. I don't think I got Storm this game.
Well, you always should eventually get to it. Like, again, you're Diamond, though, so don't worry about that yet. Well, I'm going to hit pause for Zoom in just a second, but don't worry about Storm yet, just because it's more of a...
Storm every once in a while.
I would say it's more of a Masters thing. Don't get crazy with Storm for now. You don't really have to. You could literally just use Archons with Skytoss. Like, we're talking like 4 or 5 Archons. Make Skytoss, and it's literally a move every game. And then once you get really comfortable with playing that style, which if you can get to like Masters League with that, then add in Storm once you're like either upper Diamond or Masters, and it will feel way easier because it's like a step-by-step process. Like you get comfortable with Skytoss and then you add in Storm rather than trying to initiate Storm like transitions and then also add in Storm right away when you're not comfortable with Skytoss straight up. Like if you're not comfortable with it, it's just going to fall apart. Because you'll probably like horribly fail the micro.
Right, yeah, the micro's not my forte, despite my in-game name.
It will eventually become that micro mic. It's okay. Okay, so you scouted the Zerg, and this looks pretty standard so far. Not bad. I like that you're scouting further into his base, though. I do definitely think now that you're in Diamond League, now that we're talking about Diamond level stuff, you should definitely try to get reads on what the Zerg is doing. And now I'm going to make you kind of like critically think about this really fast. Out of what you just scouted, I want you to tell me how you would read this yourself. Like, what would you do? Like, how would you now like internalize what the Zerg has just done here?
Pool first, and then hatch and gas.
Okay.
Or, wait, no, not hatch. I'm sorry, hatch first.
There you go.
Then pool and gas.
Okay.
Kind of mixed up.
I agree with you.
So he's just going for a macro build, and he'll probably go for fast third.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's a possibility.
And the gas shows beetlings.
Yeah, no, these are all definite possibilities, but I think the internalization of going hatch like gas pool or hatch pool gas, either one of those would have been fine, but you have to know it is hatch first because his hatchery is way too fast. Yeah, so I'm glad you know that. But knowing this tells you basically something along the lines of going, I am totally safe right now to go Nexus before gate, or sorry, Nexus before core, which is exactly what you're doing, which is great. And this also tells you that there is a range or a possibility that he still could go all in. He still could go for a third base. He could go for macro. Like, it's up in the air what he could do because he's opening up macro so far. So the best way you can read this in the future is, depending on how you follow this up, we'll decide how you use your stuff. But if, for instance, these are good ideas to have, okay? If you don't scout anymore from this point on, if like you're just done until like the sentry comes over and scouts, something like a blind battery would be a great idea. If you do, however, scout, you could check his gas in the future and see how far he goes, how deep he goes into it. You could also check for what comes out of his queen first. Does he go for a tumor or does he go for an inject? Tumor is more likely going to be macro. Inject is more likely to be all in. Especially if he goes for a third base. And
how would I know if he did inject? Oh, well, I guess I'd just see the.
You'd
tumor,
have to see.
right?
Yeah, you have to exactly. You would have to just see it with your probe, and you could see the energy levels on a queen. And if the energy has been spent on a queen, and you see an inject on the hatchery, that is definitely more in the realm of all in. And if you see a tumor, that is definitely more in the realm of macro. Like he wants to get ready to spread creep to guard his third base. The only time a Zerg will ever macro when they inject their larva is if they're going to do 2-base tech. But then you have to worry about like 2-base tech timings, which means if they don't take a third for a very long time, you'd have to wonder like, okay, are you rushing like a Spire? Are you rushing Roach speed? Are you maybe going Nidus? Things like this become apparent now. Like you'd have to, and things like this would be discovered by your sentry as well. So just know that if he does tech, you'll always see it with your sentry if you do hallucinated scouts. So the biggest one for you, if you the biggest easiest thing to say is if this probe goes home now and goes to mine minerals, I don't mind that. That's fine. Just make.
I think I do send it home.
Yeah, the only thing you'd want to do to be okay about this and be safe about it is just make a blind battery, and you'd be good to go. Because if you don't, you'll totally die to all-ins that do happen.
I definitely didn't make a battery.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a timer to make it. It's relatively early. Also, your build is a little messed up. I would say when you build your core, like your Nexus in your core, that was good. But then send the probe back to my minerals and have a probe off your mineral line now. Just build a gas and then build a pylon. And you did it really late because you did it with the probe that came back from building the core. So it had to run all the way back to build it. So you had way more money than you needed to do this. Which means they're just going to be late. So now you're going to be a little supply blocked, even though you went pylon before gas. And you're also going to be oversaturated, which means your gas is way too late on your second gas in your main.
If I pull the probe off the mineral line to do that, do I go gas before the pylon?
You do, yes. Yeah, the build order should be pylon, gate, gas, Nexus, core, gas, pylon. So you went pylon gas.
And do I cut probes at any point, like to get the core up?
Yeah, you can cut probes for just a second.
I don't know if I did that this game, but I think I usually do.
You can cut probes for a second at 20 supply.
Right.
Like your 19th probe should be the one that goes down to your Nexus to build it, and then there should be a 20th probe in production on the Nexus. This is going to be perfectly timed to where there's going to be a probe that's going to pop out into your gas for the 20th probe. That's going to fill up your gas 3 out of 3. And then your 19th probe is going to be the one that runs down to the natural, builds the Nexus right away, and then you have to save minerals for all of maybe like 3 seconds or 4 seconds to build the core, and then you resume per production, and then you build your gas and your pylon.
Right.
And that's all it is. That's the whole opener right there. And then you don't chrono boost until you chrono boost the first time after your first pylon's done. I think you actually might have, or no, you didn't miss that. But then you actually can chrono boost your second Nexus again after the second pylon is done, and you can also chrono boost your gateway once when the second pylon is done. Because the way the build should pace out is your second pylon and your core should finish like almost at the same time, and you'll have enough gas to support it to go for a stalker and a quick warp gate, and then you'll have a little bit of excess to get ready to throw your tech down. That's how ideally it should go. So during the time when your first stalker is building, you could throw down your tech as well. Or if you want to go for more sentries, maybe your tech is going to be a little delayed because you're going to make multiple sentries. Now for your build, I would say you're probably what you're going to end up doing is you're going to make a sentry really quickly after the first stalker, especially since you're going to chrono it. And during the time when you build the sentry, you could then throw down your tech, like your robo, if you're going to go for a colossus opener.
I don't know if I chronoed my stalker. I don't think I did.
If you don't, I would say in this game specifically, if you don't chrono the stalker, it's not that big of a deal. Because in this game specifically, the only thing the chronoed stalker is really going to accomplish is killing the Overlord. If he scouts you. It's not actually going to be needed to kill Zerglings because he went hatch gas pool. So you're not getting rushed in any way. And you can see there's an Overlord right there. You could totally have killed it if you chronoed it. And you might still kill it even now, but if you chronoed, it would definitely die. Yeah, it's still gonna die either way. All right, and then now with this build, the way the way I would say it should go, is gonna be right when you start gateway number 2. That's when I would say you should start a shield battery. Okay. So this is gonna be roughly. I think the time you started gateway number 2 is not bad. You made it after you made the stock. Like after you started the stalker, you made the. It was like similar, but Around like 30 supply, okay? You could definitely take your second gate, and you can take your battery, and that's fine.
So I would take my battery
you take
around now? Or?
Yeah, like you would take your battery probably like 30 seconds ago. So like 230, 240.
Okay.
Like around, like I would say like 240, take your battery. Somewhere around there, because if your opponent does decide to save 3 larvae and send 6 lings at your base, even though they're slow, he could actually overpower your stalker unless you do fancy like probe micro.
Right.
But if you have a battery,
yeah,
if you have a battery though, that doesn't become a problem anymore. And then it just gives you the safe feeling of no matter what he does from that point on, if it's a roach all in, if it's a baneling all in, anything before your sentry can discover what it is, you'll be a lot safer against it, especially if you also have the ability to have a Nexus overcharged battery on that thing. That is also amazing, because it's going to actually increase, like it drastically increases how well you can defend all-ins by far.
Right. I gotta love that battery overcharge.
Yeah, man. And I'm going to alter your build too. I want to give you a build example when this game's over, as well, just so I give you like a good guide, because I think with the way you want to do this, the way I want you to do this, I want your gases to actually be a little sooner now on your natural, if we're going to be doing more sentries.
I think I get my gas like right now.
Yeah, this one's okay.
I would a little sooner for sentries.
Yeah, I would say like when you're at like 8 workers on the middle line, I want you to be chrono boosting your Nexus more than you are. You're not chrono boosting at all right now. And then I also want you to be taking your gases, both of them, when you have like 8 probes on the middle line, because you're going to be making sentries for a while, and you're going to be teching to Colossus. These are all very gas intense things, and you'll never be able to do it in time if you just stay on 2 gas for a long time. So, because the big deal about how you're going to take your third base, if you're not going to go Stargate, and if you're not going to go for like a Council, and you're not going to go for Immortals, if you're just straight up going to go Stalker Colossus, which is totally viable, it is fine, it works, you need sentries to be able to buy you time, and you also still don't want to have a very late third. The goal we're going to have for your third base is going to be like 445. About 445, that's when we want your third to be going down, and we want that to be going down when you have maybe 1 Colossus and like 4 sentries and a couple Stalkers. And then I would say against Zerg, go to like, just in general when you do a build like this, go to like 4 Colossus and then don't make any more. Like literally stop at 4. Because it gets kind of excessive if you keep going after that. Alright, and then your observer is scouting him. I would honestly say, like, I know you're, a lot of people like to do this. It makes them feel safe about everything because you can physically see what he's doing the whole time. But I would say with this build, I want you to make literally just 1 observer for now, and stop, because this is gas. It becomes a lot of gas if you make multiple observers, and your build is already really tight on the gas if you're going to be going for Stalkers, Sentries, and Colossus now, early on. But if you if you make 1 observer, just keep it defensive. That way you have the ability to be safe against any type of burrow attack, which it will be the observer will be out way earlier than the burrow attack would ever hit you.
Right.
If you make it early.
You mean like have the observer like on the front of my base?
With your army. Just have it in your control group.
Oh, just with my army?
Yeah. That way you can move it around. If the guy ever goes for like, if your opponent ever were to do something like burrow movement roaches, or if he ever went for lurker, or like early lurker pushes. Because your sentry, or what are you going to say?
I hate burrow move. Jake knows.
Yeah, it's annoying. And if you don't if you don't have detection, it'll definitely feel more annoying, because you'll be like, God. It's much easier to defend a burrow move attack if you catch it right as it starts, rather than having to clean up all of your bases once he's already scattered all over your bases. So having observer with your army makes a lot of sense, and I'm gonna teach you positioning of your army too, to always be in the heart of your base, so that it makes it easy to defend shit like this. So for instance,
let's say I move my army to my 3rd here.
You should definitely move your army to your 3rd right now when it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like right now, right there. If your army wasn't there, he could have killed your 3rd base. So the fact that it's there is important. And then once you actually establish gateway coverage over your 3rd base, you would centralize your army, because now you have more time that is bought with the SimCity coverage. Like it's not just a fully exposed base anymore. It has coverage of gates, so it has minimal surface area that it can be hit by. And if he commits into your 3rd base to kill it and like fully surrounds it, you can trap him in there and kill him for doing that. And then that opens him up to do like, you can now do counter pressure and shit like that. So for instance, if you connected like these destructible rocks to the pylon, like you made a gateway sort of straight line up and down on the side of that pylon, on the top side of the Nexus, it means that he can only engage this Nexus from the south side or the right side.
Yeah.
And then
I do that.
Yeah, and then that means that you could then, if he does that, you could punish him by locking him in if you stand between the pylon and the gas on the south side of the Nexus. Now suddenly he can't leave, and you kill all of his units in there. And then that again, if he, no matter how, depending on how many he loses, if it's like 6 Zerglings or 10 Zerglings, that's not like, well, he's dead now. I could go counter that. Like, that's not enough. But let's just say,
huh? Do you mean just wall off like between the debris and like my pylon?
I mean like actually cover the pylon as well. I mean, like, put gateways to the left of the pylon, and you probably make like 3 gateways in a line. So it also semi-covers the Nexus as well.
I wall off at some point. You can tell me if I'm doing it wrong.
But the point is that, like, the fact that you haven't done it yet is not a big deal so far. The big deal is, though, is it just creates advantages for you indirectly just by how you place your buildings. So as long as you're doing that, that's good. Because if the Zerg commits to trying to kill your Nexus now, he gets punished for it very likely. Like, it's not just going to be free damage for Zerg anymore. All right, I would say it's a bit late, and also I think you're compositionally, like, you're actually going Charge Lot Archon Immortal, it looks like, this game. So which is fine. I'm not gonna, like, I know you said you want to go Colossus, and that I still will show you a Colossus build. But yeah, for what you're doing right now, I would say the fact in this game that you're getting Colossus range and shit. Yeah, okay. So you are actually still gonna go Colossus this game. I think the way you're going about the build this time around is not ideal, and this is kind of why I want to show you a build. This is a bit much on the like for instance, the Robo Bay is not worth it right now if you're going to go the way you've been going, where you're going Charge Lot and Immortal. I would say you'd be better off if this Robo Bay instead was Templar Archives, and you're going to add in Archons here, because
I feel like a lot of the times, like, I went for Immortals this game, I just kind of like go for what I can afford at the moment.
Sure.
I don't really have like a setup to like specifically.
The thing I want you to know, though, you should understand this concept. If you go Charge Lot Colossus, that is a terrible army.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and if you go, that's why you kind of want to go Stalker, and the reason why is because the thing that Charge Lots are vulnerable to, and the thing, the design of Charge Lots, okay, is they're going to push away and buy you time. Like, they push away the units that are attacking you, like whatever it is from Zerg, and they're going to buy you time. The one thing Zerg can make to fuck you over here, in a big way, would be a Corruptor now. Because, and like an Aspire unit. Because now suddenly none of your army can really hit air very much. It's very minor what can hit air. And if he goes like Corruptor, he could wipe out all of your Colossus, and then he could just engage your Zealots afterwards. Or, if you have Colossus and Zealot, he doesn't even have to go Spire necessarily. That is an option, but he doesn't even have to go Spire. He could actually just make like Banelings. And his Banelings could run into all your Zealots, all your frontline dies, and then it's just like naked Colossus just kind of walking around like, oh shit, my army's dead. Now we just got Colossus kind of like by themselves. So that army doesn't really pair well together against Zerg. It pairs well together against Terran, but not against Zerg. Okay. So against Zerg, you'd be more ideally wanting to be going for, you could still get charge eventually, but I would say your goal, your primary focus in the start of the game should be Blink with Stalker, and then you could just use this in a way where if a Zerg is ever harassing you, you could Blink and punish him for that. But if he's not harassing you, I'm not telling you to have to like Blink micro every single individual Stalker. You don't have to necessarily do that. But it just gives you options to be more mobile with your Stalkers. To punish Zerg if he's ever like vulnerable in certain spots, and that'd be fine. But then Stalker Colossus is a great combination, because Stalkers can cover the Colossus from Corruptor or any Spire units. The Sentries can cover the units as well, because if a Zerg has a hybrid of air and ground, you can actually force field out the ground army, back up a little bit, and then kill all of his air army by itself, because you can like section out how he engages you. Another thing too is Stalkers are really good at absorbing damage in a cost-efficient way, because it allows the Stalkers shoot at the Zerg units close by where the Colossus are, and they don't run in and die like a Zealot does. So it buys you time for the Colossus to do more damage with actually having a real army with it. So like if you're fighting a bunch of, or go ahead.
Should I have like any Zealots at all with that comp?
No,
like maybe like 5 or something?
Not at the start. Nope. You should definitely not even getting charged right now either. Zealots without charge are terrible, and you shouldn't even get charged first. So what you should do, this is how you should do it. This is the sequence of how you'd want to do it. You'd want to go for Stalker Sentry, Colossus, Because you're getting Colossus really fast too, so you should not be afraid of like Zerglings, because Colossus are going to just fucking destroy that. So what you want to, and that's why Zealots will be good, is like Zerglings, pretty much. But you're going to be going Stalker, Sentry, Colossus. You're going to get high supply off of this. You're probably going to go to literally like 4 bases off of this. And then, once you have a good economy, you can start a Stargate. And when you start a Stargate, that is when you start charge.
Okay.
And then you can...
Would that be like when I'm taking like my 4th?
Yes. And this is going to be a situation where you're going to go from Stalker, Sentry, Colossus, and you're going to go into Skytoss, Charge Lot. Because Charge Lot is a great combination with Skytoss, because you don't have, I guarantee you're not going to have enough gas to fully max out on Skytoss right away. So you spend all your gas on Skytoss transitions, and then you run out of gas, and then you spend all those excess minerals on Zealots. And then you can use these Zealots at this point in time to either reinforce your army if you're defensively playing it, or if he's being defensive, you could use these Zealots to just go counterattack his outer expansions repeatedly. And it buys you time, and you also indirectly could potentially do damage to his economy. And it just buys you time to make more carriers and make more carriers. And, you know, mine more gas to make more carriers. And then once you get to a point where you have like enough gas to max out on Skytoss, you will have 0 Zealots in your army, because all Zealots are a buffer. They're just a buffer while you're maxing out, and then once you max out, if you're able to max out on Skytoss, you just send the rest of your Zealots out on the map to go die and go do whatever damage they can. They die, you literally then max out on Skytoss because you have enough gas to do it, and you're good to go. Now you have a death ball. And then if you start losing supply and you need Zealots again to reinforce anywhere, or you want to do a counterattack while simultaneously dealing damage to Zerg's base somewhere else with your Skytoss, you have the option to do that. You just don't want to use them as a primary aspect of your army. It's just a buffer when you don't have the gas, or it's a reinforced tool. But Zealots are pretty fucking terrible if you have them as your main part of your army, if you're not going Charge the Archon Immortal. And even then, if you are going Charge the Archon Immortal, you don't actually want a lot of Zealots in your army. You'd rather have more Archon and more Immortal, but you're limited by gas again. Like, gas is a very limited resource in StarCraft 2, so maximizing it as much as you can is good. Which is why Zealots are nice, because they buffer your army to make your gas units last longer. But it would never be a good idea to, like, let's say you lose all your Zealots against Zerg and you have Archon Immortal as well. I would definitely be like, you should probably back up now, unless you 100% know you're going to win the game. Because if you take another fight and lose a bunch of Archon Immortal, that is really, really, really bad. You want to maximize your gas units at all times. For every race wants to do this. The other race that's a little bit different is Terran, because Marines are just god tier units that can be used every aspect of the game. But like for Zerg and Protoss, you definitely want to maximize your gas units and don't throw them away. But you're more than capable of throwing away your Zealots and your Zerglings, stuff like that. It just buys you time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure you're fully understanding what I'm saying. All right. So
it almost makes me think that I tend to make too many Zealots when I usually play.
So it depends what you make, like, as well. But
I'm not sure exactly what I do in this game.
Yeah, I'll say, like, the fact that you're rushing charge this fast, I don't agree with, only because you're going Colossus, because it makes no sense then. Because those units don't pair well together against Zerg, because you're just going to lose. Like, if you engage the Zerg, your front line is going to die so fucking fast. Like for instance, let's just say this. Let's say you have 4 Colossus, okay? You have 4 Colossus, and you have like 20 Zealots. I guarantee against a high supply Zerg, those 4 Colossus will each be able to attack maybe twice by the time all of your Zealots are dead.
Right.
That sounds very realistic.
And I feel like, well, I usually get charge, I guess just because I don't really know how to use Blink too well. I do get it against Terran for like medevacs.
That's exactly how you should use it against Zerg. Literally use it like that against Zerg. So if a Zerg has like a Mutalisk in your base, blink at it and just pop his mutas. If a Zerg does like a Drop Lord in your base, blink at it. It's very rare that Zerg does that, but if he ever does, blink at it, kill it. If a Zerg ever has like units running away from you, like for instance, if it's a medevac running away, let's say it's like the Zerg just lost a fight and he's running away with a few roaches, you can blink at him again and just pick off, do like a final volley, maybe pick off another.
Just use it like a chasing tool.
Yeah, literally. But I am not telling you to be like, all right, so I'm going to need you to go ahead and blink every fucking Stalker as it loses shields to maximize regeneration. Like, no, I'm not telling you.
300 APM micro.
You don't have to do that. You could do that if you become micro Mike. If you go full fucking full micro Mike mode at GM level, you could eventually do that. But for now, you don't have to do that. That's not required.
I'll get there.
You will. Someday. You'll definitely get there. I believe. But yeah. So, like, okay, the way you're walling your natural off, I disagree with this.
Okay.
So, what I would want you to do is see how you have your gateway that's already done on the very top? I would say if you shifted that maybe down to the right one and then over, like, down one to the right one as well. So, it's in a direct line in front of the pylon. And then add, like, 2 more or maybe 3 more gateways and a line below that. So, you literally...
Just, like, cut off the front of my base.
Exactly.
Not, like, cut off that little area.
You stop the Zerg from being able to do run-bys in the top of your Nexus. So, because, like, now it's connected to the wall. He'd have to kill the rocks to do a run-by. And if he does that, throw another gateway in there on the side of the gas. And suddenly you kill run-bys again. It doesn't happen anymore. But then you... so you totally eliminate the top side of your Nexus from being run-byed. So he would have to do a run-by by going to the bottom of your Nexus. And the way you've taken your 4th base... I agree with where your main army is located. That is the heart of your base. You can defend your 4th, you can defend your 3rd, you can defend your natural. This is a great location to be. It's in the center of everything. And if you create your gateways on your 4th as well to be just like this for your 3rd, it makes it to where your army can easily catch the run-by before your probes die. And then also what it does too is if he does attacks with range units, it creates an opening for you to abuse him with because you can abuse him with Colossus. You could use your units to shoot him without having to lose your gateways first. But for instance, if you just like fully wall a line like this on the outside, you give him a maximum like surface area location to where he can now, the only way you're really going to be able to take an engagement with him is if he pops your gateways and then you can go push him and fight him.
Right.
So you don't really want to... Yeah, you don't really want to wall yourself out like that because exactly, the only time that would ever make sense, honestly, would be if you're going air units. Because then a wall doesn't matter to you because you can just fly over it. So, for now, yeah, like if you're going to be using a ground army, you don't want to limit your own surface area because if he's punishing your wall on the outside, that's still good damage for him to do because he's killing your production.
Right.
The only way
I think that happened this game. He comes in with some like Ravagers in a second.
Exactly. And the only way you could defend yourself is if you go through a little choke point where his lings are going through right now, and you walk out single file into his army when that's very, very vulnerable for you. That's very risky, and you could easily die.
Failed.
Yeah,
Force field.
It's all good. And here, I'm glad he's going Banelings. What you're going to see is you're going to see Zealots charge in and die to Banes, and your Colossus will shoot maybe once, and then the Zealots are already dead. If you had Stalkers, it allows your Colossus to actually do damage as he approaches you, and your Stalkers then take the damage like Zealots do indirectly as he gets to your Colossus. Because the Colossus is always going to be behind the Stalker if you're on A move, for 2 reasons. A Stalker runs faster than a Colossus. A Stalker has 4.13. A Colossus is 3.15. So a Stalker roughly runs about 25% faster than a Colossus. But now, on top of that, you have the Stalkers, like I said before, they have range. So they're going to shoot at the units, and it's going to allow your Colossus to do more swipes before the Colossus actually take hits. And as the Stalkers are taking hits, like most units for Zerg, a Zealot and a Stalker take about the same amount of damage before they die. The only thing that really changes is versus Banelings. Stalkers take way more damage from a Baneling. Or they absorb way more damage from a Baneling than a Zealot does.
They're armored.
Exactly. They're not the right armor type for Lings to just... Banelings to just crush their ass. Like a Baneling will just wipe out like 10 Zealots in no time flat. Exactly because they're light and the Stalkers are armored. So it's a better front line against Zerg to have Stalkers in your army rather than Zealots if you want to buy yourself time to deal damage. And the reason why Zealots pair well with Archon Immortal is because Archon Immortal is actually like your front line that can absorb a fuckload of damage. Like Archons absorb damage like bosses. They never die for a long time. Jesus. I'm talking so fast here. I'm saying the wrong unit repeatedly. Immortals are the same thing. They absorb damage like fucking beasts because they have that barrier that procs, and they have 400 health overall, and they're armored again. They don't really take damage very hard against a lot of things from Zerg. So...
Oh, what? They have a barrier?
Yeah.
I just clicked on an Immortal. I didn't even know that.
So if you hit an Immortal, it's automation. It's not something you have to micro. If it takes damage, it just procs 100 extra health on itself for 2 seconds. It's in the aspect of shields. But yeah, it absorbs damage like a fucking beast is what it does. So Archon Immortal is very self-sufficient, which is why you make Zealots, because all you really want is Archon Immortal. It has nothing, like, don't think that Zealots are the front line for Archon Immortal. Don't think that. It seems logical that you would think that because you're like, well, Zealots are the melee, Archon Immortal's the range. So Zealots are like the tank, and Archon Immortal's the range backline. It's not like that. Archon Immortal is actually the self-sufficient tank, and Zealot is only made there because it doesn't cost gas. That is the only reason why you make it. It's just extra fodder. It's like a little bit of an extra damage sponge, and it does a little bit of DPS as well. But it just is, it's irrelevant though. If you had no Zealots and you had pure Archon Immortal, that's actually better than having Zealots. It's just because they don't cost gas. But when you have Colossus though, you actually do want a frontline tank, and it sounds like you'd be like, well, that should be Zealots again. But Zealots should not be with Colossus because they are actually a terrible frontline tank. And also going Colossus is cheaper on the gas than going Archon Immortal. So your frontline tank is actually Stalkers, because Stalkers are, even though they're not literally a melee unit, they still have a shorter range than Colossus do. So indirectly, they're still what you would consider a frontline tank for the Colossus. And they actually cover Colossus from air units as well. So they have multi-purpose why they're good. Zealots are fucking terrible. They're only really... Zealots only seem overpowered against Terran, because Zealots have decently higher armor than other units. They have like passive armor, and then you also have Guardian Shield, which is crazy. And it's super fucking strong against Bio. Like Marines take forever to kill Zealots. Like it just... And also Bio dies like ridiculously fast. So Zealots are super good against Bio, and that's the only time they're really super good. Otherwise, they're just fodder all the time. And they're good at killing shit when it can't defend itself. So that's why they also pair well with like skytoss, when your goal of Zealots is to go kill like drones and hatcheries. Because they're not actually fighting like banelings and roaches and hydras. Zealots actually suck ass in that regard. Just like you could say the same thing about Zerglings. Like Zerglings are amazing at run-bys, but they're terrible. They have terrible efficiency at army fights. Like the only reason why Zerglings ever seem really strong is because they're usually backed up by banelings. So like they're just fodder. Like you have to realize that Zealots are fodder, and once you do, you know, it makes more sense about how to use the unit. All right, props on the shield battery. I like that you built it. That's good shit. Okay, and then same thing on this base too. I want to make this very. I want to make your architecture improve here. I would say a great way to build this base would have been maybe put a pylon below the mineral line on the left side of the mineral line at your fourth base, and then put another pylon maybe like on the side of your nexus, kind of like how it is now. That's fine where it is. On the top side of your nexus, like touching the nexus, kind of. And you could connect gateways from the wall to the mineral patch, and then also connect from that gateway to the side of your nexus. So you just don't allow him to run into the back of your mineral line. Just block that off. But you want to leave a lot of open surface area on the top side of your nexus. So like all these gateways and cannons on the north side of the nexus should not be there. Because now if the Zerg engages you on the left side of your nexus, you cannot really defend yourself again. Because now the only way you have surface area is like 2 units at a time can attack him. Because the rest of it's blocked out. You've basically blocked your own surface area to defend your base here. If that makes sense.
Right.
So you always...
I can't see where exactly you're clicking, but I'll look at the...
Yeah, okay, so like, yeah, if so you see where the probe is? Like, standing at your fourth base right now?
The probe on the left?
Yeah, on the far left probe, it was like next to the building gateway.
Yeah.
You would want that gateway to be touching the wall.
Okay.
And then you'd want that wall to connect to your nexus.
Okay.
In a big, just straight line.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So you just want to block the Zerg from running behind or into your mineral line. That's all it is. And you did the exact same thing on this base on the top side. That's what I said I would have wanted you to have done. You just block him from running into the back of your mineral line. That's always the goal. And then you leave the side that is closer to your base, like not the outside, but the inside of your base. Leave that open, because that's where your army is going to be. Like ideally, your army should be defending the heart of your base, and your army should be. If you see him approaching your base over here, you also approach it too, and you will cut him off, and you'll kill his ass if he tries to go into your base. You should always be in position to do this. So like, for instance, if the Zerg backed off right now, and you're not sure if he's going to hit your fourth or your third, the fact that your army is so pushed up in your third is a little incorrect. I would say your army should actually be south a little bit, kind of where those 2 probes are, together with minerals in their hands, like just a little bit south of where they are now. Your army is what I'm talking about. Like it should be there where the probes are.
I don't know if I moved it a second, or if I just leave it there.
but it would allow you to defend both your third and fourth ideally, and then this way, all those, like the 3 cannons you have, really the 4 cannon, that 4th cannon's also really exposed. All the cannons you have at your 4th base, and those 4 gateways on the top, those are all fucking you over because they're in your way if you're going to stand here and defend the 4th base. Because now, same thing again, the only way you can actually have good surface area is if he kills your buildings. Which, that's indirectly a fail already for you because you don't want your buildings to die for no reason. And then your pacing, I would say, is a little bit slow. You'd want to be, with the expansions. With the styles like this, you definitely want to be pacing a little bit faster, where, like, for instance, you should be taking your 5th base as your main base mines out. Because if you're going to, if you have 82 probes and you don't take a 5th base as you start depleting in the main, even if you feel pressured, you still have to try. Because if you don't, you're indirectly going to lose anyways. You're going to put yourself in a position where you're just stuck on defense all day until you die. And that's when
that's kind of what happened this game.
That's just when Zerg runs you over.
That was one of the things that I realized when I watched this game myself, was that I took my 5th base way too late.
Yeah. And I'm glad he's killing your gateways, because you see what's happening right here? This is exactly what we're talking about. Like, you're putting yourself in a situation where you can't actually engage him until your gateways are dead. So that's painful. And then he actually, I think he did the smartest thing he could have done there out of all. He killed only the gateway that was covering your probes, and then he still left the other gateways that still blocked you from fighting him, and then he killed your probes. And then he backed off. Like, that's probably the best thing he could have done to fuck you over. But if you didn't block yourself out, that would never have happened, because every time he tries to engage you, you can counter-engage him. And then you can bait him into a choke point, and if he fully commits, that's when you could then use sentries to, like, block off 1 or 2 force fields, and suddenly you trap whatever's in there, and everything else that's not in there gets stuck outside. And the reason why this makes sense is because Colossus is the highest range unit out of all of these units that are fighting right now. You have the ability to poke him before he pokes you. Alright, and then same thing again. He just kills your gateways, they die, or you cancel them either way. But at this point now, you're starting to fall really far behind. Because you're allowing your, like, let's look at the map really fast. Your opponent has 6 bases, and you're still on 4. And now your natural's also mining out. And you haven't even not started a 5th yet. So now, if this never changes, it's just one of those, like your friend saying you need to move out and attack. It's not, okay, so I'm actually glad that you said that, because I didn't think about it this way, but now I'm going to explain something to you. In this game, it looks like you have to move out and attack, otherwise you're going to die. But moving out and attacking or expanding is the same exact thing. You can indirectly make him attack you if you just expanded. So yes, you've lost the game because you turtled, but you don't have to attack him. You could just expand. That also is that also wins you the game.
It's just like another way of taking a fight.
Yes, because you force him to push you then. Because he is the one on a clock, not you. He's the one playing for a mid game, and if you're the one playing for skytoss, and if he's for instance, like I'm gonna tell you right now, if he's at all even remotely close to diamond level or like masters, like I was saying before about like the level of Zerg would have to be to deal with skytoss. If he just goes for a spire or whatever, it doesn't mean he beats skytoss. So if you just go skytoss out of this position, you like defensively go Colossus, Sentry, Stalker, and then you eventually go skytoss, you would fucking destroy him no matter what he does. If he does not have, for instance, really good micro, level 3 carapace, good spellcaster control, broodlord simultaneous control, like he has to have all these things to be able to break you. All you have to do to break him is a move with, like, literally cast Storm twice and a move, and you just win. It's so much easier for Protoss to execute the fight when you have skytoss. So if you just defensively expanded, you force him to fight you again and again and again. And if you build your SimCity correctly, then suddenly you also just get to a point where you always have decent engagements. You don't just like wait till your shit dies to be able to engage because you're not blocking yourself out of the fight. And then once you actually have that point where you're ready to go skytoss, you could actually make like 5 Stargates with a fleet beacon. You're already upgrading your weapon upgrades on your air out of your core when you do this. You could then move out, or before you move out, you could make like a few cannons at every mineral line in case he does a counterattack. Then you could move out, and now you have a bank that is developing. You also have a like your production is ready to remax, and you have a bank that is already being developed really high because you have a good economy. You then push the Zerg with your ground army. And as but you don't try to like take these massive engagements where you're like, I'm looking for a fight and we're both gonna die. What you do is you push him and you be patient about it. You literally, every time he pushes back into you, you just back up and force field a couple times. That's it. That's your whole plan, is you back up with force fields. And you allow some of your army to bleed out and die. You don't try to lose all of your army at once. You just try to take fights where you buy yourself time by cutting the fight off with force fields. You lose some units, you back up, and then you don't remax on Stalkers anymore and Colossus. You then replace with Stargate, with like Carrier and Mothership and shit like that. And if all of your Stargates and your Mothership and all that shit is in production, and you still have open supply, then you could make Zealots. And then what you would do with the Zealots, while you start to lose supply, if you start making Zealots then, because all of your gas is now going into skytoss, you could have your main army. Let's say your Stalker Colossus pushes the left side of the map. You could then take just your Zealots that you just warped in and send them on the right side of the map. So you could be like, hey, Zealots, shift A, move all the right bases. Okay, main army on the left side. Let's poke him very, very methodically, very slowly. I'm not trying to just literally punch a hole into his base repeatedly, like as fast as I can. I'm just trying to poke his base. He engages. The second I see him engage, I back up and get ready to force field. That's all I do. I'm just doing non-committal engages where I lose a little bit at a time. And then once you actually start having a point where, let's say your army gets smaller and smaller and smaller, it will get more likely overrun over time. And once it gets overrun, because it's so small, you should be totally fine if the Zerg then counters your base and like goes for an attack, because at that point you should already have like 8 or 10 carriers, which is why the power of your army got smaller and smaller and smaller. But he doesn't know that your army's getting smaller and smaller and smaller because he can't see you the whole time. Like, you're killing his creep. You're killing whatever is showing up to fight him, and you're backing up repeatedly into fog of war. You're not just shoving into his, you're not just walking into his base, you know what I mean? You're not just giving him the, like, for instance, if you just walk into his base like this, like, I don't know if you're looking at everyone's vision really fast, but if you're not, do that really quick so you can see my pings. So what I would want you to do is like push that base, for instance, and just literally always recede to the ramp. Be like, hey, you engage me, I'll go back to the ramp and I'll force field your ass every time. That's a great way to do non-committal engagements. What I don't want you to do, however, I don't want you to just literally walk like this. Like all the way to his natural. And be like, I just walked deep into the middle of creep. I don't give a shit. I'm going to your natural. What's up? Like, that's how you're going to lose your army in 2 seconds. Because you're giving the Zerg the ability to just fully consume you. And then just like surround you, flank you, kill you on deep on creep. Don't do that. Just fight the edges of creep and the edges of his bases. And take little fights here and there and replace into skytoss. And then once you actually have skytoss, then you could actually be like, yeah, I can go wherever the fuck I want and I'll just kill you. That's like, that should be your goal. That should always be your game plan and your concept. And if you can do that, you will crush so many fucking Zergs that play mid-game styles like this. Which is what everyone will do, basically. How do you feel?
I feel like I'm getting some good advice here.
Okay. So what I want to do now is I'm gonna just kind of like speed through this to the end of the game here, because I think I can already see how you're gonna lose this game. You're just not expanding. So I want to see how the decisions you make throughout the rest of this, and I imagine the fact that you have Colossus and Zealot versus Lurker now is really bad. That's like death for you. So I imagine you're just he's probably gonna steamroll you in a second here, and then you're just gonna get starved probably. But I want to make you a build before we end the coaching lesson. And at this point now, at 12 minutes, with him doing a Lurker timing, I'm going to tell you right now, you should already have carriers. If you don't have carriers at this point, it's very late. And the fact that you are starting them now is very late. Like, you should already have them. Because this build, if you're going to play greedy defensive rotations of your tech, it's very doable, and your carriers should be starting like 3 minutes ago or 4 minutes ago. And imagine, look at his army right now. He's got 9 Hydralisk. Imagine if he had like 6 carriers here, just like shooting him. You would easily make him up row and run away. And then if you keep making carriers again after that, you'd be totally fine. And even 3 carriers is probably going to win this fight because he has no Hydra. So I'm glad that you expanded again. You've actually given yourself opportunity now to come back in this game. This actually just became a real game. What you should do right now, now that you're going into skytoss, this should be your goal. Make archons. Stop making archons around 5 of them, but make like archons. You're not making storm at all. Just make templars, high templars into archons, and stop around 5. Make all supply available beyond that into carrier, and then make a mothership. Always make, well, obviously you can only make 1 mothership, but just make a mothership, and then make like 2 observers. And that's literally always your go-to composition for now. 5 archon, a mothership, 2 observer, mass carrier. And whatever supply you have, I don't give a shit how many zealots it is, whatever supply you have in zealots, if you ever make them, because you cannot spend your gas for whatever reason, if you don't have any at the moment, send your zealots away from where he is. So if I had to ask you,
run by?
Yeah, and do a run by. Always do not ever be like, I need zealots in my main army. As soon as you're going skytoss, you don't want to do that. The only time I would say that ever makes sense to have zealots in your army is if your opponent is going like mass hydras and he's currently trying to break you and you already lost all of your colossus and you're like, well, fuck me, I have no army. I lost it all because I took a really bad fight and I'm going carrier and my supply right now is only like 120 and I'm actually trying to make colossus and carrier and zealot so I just don't fucking die. Like if that was what you were doing because you were getting like constantly repetitively all in by hydra, I would say then it might make sense to keep zealots in your army, but even then it's still kind of risky. You probably almost always be better off if you just do run bys with once you make carrier, just do run bys with zealots. Like they're really bad in your main army. They're really almost never good because if he just makes banelings or something, they're all gonna die super fast and it's just a waste. And you could actually gain so much more control of the game with time and also with resources if you just go kill expansions. So if you look at this, watch how the Zerg runs away from you. He runs to the north. Now, if you were to do a run by against him, what would you do right now? What would be the best way to do a run by, judging off of how this fight just went? I'll ask you, then I'll tell you after.
Send some zealots to like the bottom left 3 bases.
Exactly. Yep. That's all I would do. Exactly. You would just work from the outside in. So go to the closest bases to you and work inwards towards him, and go opposite or wherever you know his army just went to. So if he runs north,
I don't know if I did that this game.
Well, I don't expect you to. It's fine. But that's just the concept. Always run away from where his army is and send your zealots out that way. And then here's the great thing too. Once you actually have zealots and you're in that phase where you can now start controlling creep a little bit more and you can start controlling like the Zerg a bit more because let's say your carrier count is getting a bit higher. Every time you send zealots and you drag the Zerg over somewhere to defend your zealots, take a moment until your zealots are dead to push with your carriers, with observers and mothership and all this shit on creep and kill his creep. Don't stay out there too long. But just kill, why not take advantage of the moment where he's going to defend the other side of the map and now suddenly you kill creep right here. And then once you actually have a maxed out skytoss, you never have to retreat when you do this. You could just literally kill creep and kill bases. Because now you actually don't mind taking a fight. Skytoss
That was another thing that I saw is that I don't think I cleared creep at all this game.
Yeah, it's okay. I would say with your style, this is the final thing I'll say, and then let's jump out of this and let's make a build for you. The last concept about how you should play this build, okay, is never attack the Zerg unless the Zerg throws an army away. Only counter attack the Zerg, never actually attack the Zerg. Ever. So
that sounds like something I could do.
Yeah. So if the Zerg if the Zerg is extra aggressive and he throws away a big fat army, go counterattack him. That's fine. Because now he's going to be weakened and you can definitely take advantage of that. But don't ever feel like you're forced to take a fight when nothing has happened yet. Because all that's going to happen then is if you give the Zerg the advantage by neither one of you has taken a fight yet, so you both have full power here, but the Zerg is not trying to remax into a different tech. He's not trying to go for a death ball for Zerg. He's just going to stay mid-game all day, and he's going to keep remaxing what he already has. However, you are remaxing on better armies, so you're the one who is trying to take a new army. You're only making Colossus and Stalker as a temporary army. So if you take a fight against Zerg when nothing has happened yet, there's a chance you throw your army away. And if you throw your army away, you just have to rebuild what you just lost, which delays your skytoss. Because if you don't rebuild what you just lost, you're going to just die. Because then you don't have any time to make skytoss. So never attack the Zerg unless it's a counterattack. Or once you have fully set up your bases with your economy and you've prepared for a skytoss transition, and then do exactly what I said a second ago, where now you do the non-committed attacks, where you never fully just shove into his base as fast as you can. You just poke the edges of his base so he cannot flank you and not surround you. He just pokes you in the front of your face, and then you always back up in force field, and then just take small fights and let your army slowly die as you replace skytoss. That is the exact way you should play this build. And if you don't do that and you just rush the fights, that's how you're going to lose. Sound good?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Now I'll go ahead and pop out of that game, and I'll make you
All
build really fast, and then use this as a guide to like see if you're pacing
Should I
well.
spectate you on stream or what?
Just leave the game, and I'll make a new game, and you can join the game directly. This way, you also have the replay.
I'll leave the group, you mean?
No. Stay in the group. It's okay.
Oh,
You'll just be like a referee in the game. I'll just make the same map as well you just played, just because it's the same one. I'll make you referee, and then I'll add an AI Zerg. Okay. So if you can hit the timings, like I'm gonna hit the timings right now in this game, you're doing great. I'm gonna do very realistic timings for Diamond. We're not gonna do anything crazy because again you're playing full defensive. Full defensive. Okay, so we'll make our pylon. And then we'll scout. Do the same thing you did. Your scouting was fine last game. You just got to read as if he was going to go for early pool or not, which is fine. And then you can literally just like shift click his base really fast, and then shift click your mineral line if you really wanted to, so you don't fuck up your build at all. Whatever you're comfortable with. If you can handle the scout.
Sometimes I do that.
Okay, that's fine. You just want to see what his opener is and just look at it for a second. But like right now, when I'm 19 out of 23, rally the nexus to the natural.
Yep.
Build another probe. And then as soon as the probe pops out, re-rally the nexus to the gas. And then now have the probe down here.
Do the same thing.
Yeah, and then don't build any probes until you build your core now. So you build the nexus, and then you come over here and get ready to build your core. And it only takes a few seconds.
Right.
And then build our core. And then have this probe now. Right click back into the gas as well. And have a new probe off the mineral line. It says 17 as well, by the way, because the scouting probe is coming back and it's actually considered to be mining it. So it's not actually 17. But now we build a new gas, and then we start a pylon. Start a pylon, and then continue probe production. And that's all it is. Now we're good to go. And then we're going to be taking, the second our thing is done, we're going to chrono boost. So we'll saturate the gas right away. And this allows us to really get the sentries out and the colossus tech out really fast. Re-rally the nexus to the natural. Chrono boost stalker, chrono boost probe. And then we'll be making the sentry first, and then we'll make the robo. And around the time when we make the sentry and the robo, we'll make that. I would say around the time we make the robo, we'll make the second gateway and the battery. So it'll be around 30 supply, roughly. Okay, so now we make the robo in the main. We make the second gate, and then the battery. And the battery. And now suddenly I'm safe from all these different weird variations of all in. And now we make another sentry. And chrono boost our nexus. And we're gonna go to like four, I'll just say 5. We'll say 5, fuck it. 5 sentries will be a good number for you. And now we have like half the mineral line saturated, so now let's go double gas here. Around like 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. Great time to build your gas at your natural. We can start another pylon. And get ready to build your robo bay. Because again, we're rushing colossus for our third base. And now, if you got all in here, you'd be so easily defensive. Like, it would be very hard to die if you were getting all in right now by, like, roaches, banes, whatever. And if you did get all in here, just know this. If you do get all in, stop making sentries and just use what you have already in sentries and start making stalkers, and you will not die. And maybe make stalker battery, and you will not die. And you could also make immortal, too, if you want to make immortal, too. And now we have 4 gases because going into a robo bay, an observer, and sentries is fucking expensive. So now we have our rope gates finishing. And now the second they're done, we're going to make double sentry again. And this allows us also to have more money saved up so we can then take a third base really fast. And we're going to get our colossus out here pretty soon. You know, I would say you could actually just go to 4 sentry. It's fine. It's not a big deal. 4 or 5, whatever you do. 4, as long as you have 4 or 5, I'm okay with either one of those. That's totally fine. Okay, we'll make stalker and start a colossus right now. And now let's go get ready to start our third base. So we'll leave 1 stalker on the door just to be safe in case there was a run by. Like that, like hold position on the door, like right there. And now with the probe, you want to definitely do this. Like walk with the probe and immediately go behind the mineral line like this, okay? Always do this. Never stay in the front. Build your pylons on the sides of the nexus. And never, ever, ever, ever stay in the front. This way I can cast force fields like this, and suddenly the Zerg gets really shitty engagements. However, if you're in the middle of the open, it would have to be like, force field, force field, force field, force field, you know what I mean? Like way more. And you'd be like, right. Oh, this sucks. And now we can just continue making units. We can make Colossus range. And now once you have the Colossus, this is way stronger. You're now suddenly like 3 times as strong as you were before versus most things. This Colossus is fucking huge. You can re-rally all of our probes to the third base. And now, as you get ready to, like, you know, you have a good saturation of your third, like, a lot of probes are being transferred right now. This is when I would say, first, make your gateways. And a great way to make your gateways would be like this right here.
Yep.
And then right after that, make your Twilight Council.
Forge.
And your Forge, exactly. Okay, I don't have enough room in that pylon right there. Make it into the natural then. And now we can make our gases and just keep, and we can keep scouting with a hallucinated phoenix every now and again, and just keep making stalkers for now. And now that we have the wall actually set up in our base here, you don't have to stand in the middle line anymore. Stand like in the heart of your base now. This is totally fine. And now our third base is getting really well saturated, so let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's start our fourth base. And this time, instead of actually standing behind the middle line at your fourth, you now kind of want to stand in the heart of your base because your third will be exposed then. So put a pylon like, kind of like how I'm doing right now at your fourth base and your nexus, and have your army nearby. And if you have to cancel it, cancel it. But if not, you can always defend it. So like if a shit attacks you, you can go defend it. But yeah, you don't want to fully expose your fourth or your third too hard. And now we have blink. We have +1 weapons. So our build is going to go to 4 Colossus, okay? All the way to 4 Colossus. That's the overall idea. You're like, oh, nice banelings. Like force fields, whatever. We're going to go. And now with the fourth base, same thing.
Those force fields, it's super useful.
They're they're super good, exactly. They buy time for Colossus just to fuck the Zerg up pretty bad. And I don't care if your wall looks like the way mine does right now at the fourth base. Just make a wall. Like however you can. There's just so there's, you know, like, their mineral line isn't super exposed. And now at this point, we're at a point now where we're getting high supply. We're getting closer and closer to that point where we're getting now soon to be ready to switching into skytoss. I would say the perfect time to do it would be as soon as you make your 4th Colossus, which is about to happen. Now what we're going to want to do is we're really good saturation. We have great probe count. 4th Colossus has already started. Start making weapon upgrades on the Cyber Core for a Stargate. Actually start a Stargate and start your Templar Archives and start charge on your council. Now that you're making all these, now because you're getting ready for the next tech, which is going to be Archon Carrier Zealot, which eventually will just be Archon Carrier. So now you can chrono boost your upgrades at this point because you're no longer chrono boosting probes. Your probe count is great. You can make a battery at like your 3rd base and your 4th base just because you don't have one yet. Just if you don't have that yet, just definitely make it. Keep scouting with hallucinations. And now you hear mineral fields being exhausted in the main, so now we know our main's mining out. So now let's go ahead and take another base. I don't give a shit which one you take. Just go ahead and take it. And now that these bases you're going to take now are going to be a little bit more exposed, What should happen now is, what's going to happen now is you're probably not going to put gateways there anymore. You're just going to rely on pure static D. So check out my base right now. We have now 5 stargates. We have, so we're getting ready for the transition, right? Yeah, whatever. Fuck that guy. Do it again. So we're getting ready for the transition. We have the four colossus. Now maybe make a couple more observers once you have the 4 colossi. And we have our 5th base being started. We're still making stalkers, by the way, whenever we can, until we get closer to max. And now this is what our 5th base will look like. We just have it a little bit more exposed. And you know, now that you're starting to get really gas starved and you're like getting ready to really want to make carriers. Once the carriers are ready to actually be made, stop making stalkers and start making zealots. Because you're about to switch your tech now. And now this is that point when you could actually go into your bases and go like this. Cannon. At your 5th base be like maybe like 5 cannons and like 4 batteries. Something like looks like that. Just space it out, gap it a little bit, and you're good to go. Maybe add on like 2 cannons to your other bases. Your 3rd and your 4th. So it looks like this. Like cannon, cannon, good to go. In your main base, maybe add in 1 cannon and 1 battery. In your natural, add in like 1 cannon and 1 battery. And this is going to keep you safe from like run-bys. Now take your army and go like this. Like all of your, okay, look at this map is like fucking my army up here, whatever. I'll reconverge it in the middle. But take your army and move out on the Zerg and maybe take like both sentries and go like this. Like where are your bases? What are the most exposed bases? As you're making carriers now. You are starting to make carriers. You're also starting to make Archons. You're starting the future units that you're going to go into. And you can also be chrono boosting your upgrades for weapons on the ground for Forge and your weapons on the air for your core. You could be fixing your probes in the meantime while you're waiting to figure out where you want to go. You could be chrono boosting your carriers as well simultaneously. And you're like, okay, let's say the Zerg bases are up here or whatever. You would take fights with Zerg like this. You also pay attention to the fact that my natural is mining out. You always want to take another base when one of your bases mines out. Take another base. Try your best to keep that up. So don't ever feel like you have to take a fight. If you have to take a second and be like, you know what, I need to expand again. Postpone the fight. It's totally fine because you're transitioning. You're preparing for the future of this game. You're not just all in right now, so you don't need to feel rushed about the fight. Chrono boost your upgrades. That's important. Chrono boost your carriers. That's important. Take cannons just like you did at your 5th base. And batteries and shit like that, so you can actually maintain good economy, good supply. You know, cannon, 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 battery, 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 cannon, whatever. Like anything, just make it like a 5, 6 cannons, 5 batteries, good shit. And now let's say you took a fight, okay? Let's just say you took a fight against Zerg, and this happened. You lost maybe like a few stalkers, some zealots. Some shit died, and you backed up in the meantime, like you were backing up, like you were just like, all right, cast some force fields, back up, whatever. You just back up. You like lose some units, back up. You never push him, you always back up. You replace with carrier. Repeatedly do this. And then you just wait, you're patient, you poke, you're patient, you poke, you're patient. Like you always have the idea of backing up just like this. Never push into him. And only push into him if there's nothing there. Yeah. But as soon as you see shit, always back up, back up, back up, back up. And if you keep doing this, your army keeps bleeding out little by little by little by little, more and more and more and more. Meanwhile, you're back at your base, you're chrono boosting carriers, you're chrono boosting a mothership, you're chrono boosting upgrades, you're chrono boosting all these things. All these things you're transitioning into. You're maintaining good economy, so if your bases mine out, you rotate it into something better. And notice how we're already at 12.5 minutes, 13 minutes, and in this game, this is when you were getting, at like 13, like right around 13 minutes is when you got pushed by lurkers and you had 3 carrier. We already have a fuckload of carriers in production, and we already have level 3 air weapons on the way. Like, our carrier count is ridiculously fast this game, because we're not trying to remax and stay on Zealot, Stalker, Colossus for very long. It's just in case we lose more than we are able to lose. And at this point now, you know, like, you can take a fight against Zerg, whatever. More of your shit dies. If you get to a point where too much of your army dies, and you're like, fuck, I don't have enough, like, I have 5 Stargates pumping carriers with Chrono Boost constantly, but I still have open supply that I can't utilize here. Like, I need to do something with it. Make some Zealots. Literally just do a charge lot run by. Call it a day. And then you just literally, you can just be like, okay, his army's on the left side or whatever, just do the right side. If his army's on the right side, do the left side. Like, always go opposite of his army. Do a zealot run by, because it'll make him stay defensive longer, and it will buy you time to make more carriers and make, you know, the actual death ball you're trying to make. And then now we're at a point now where we have our Archon, we have our carrier, we have our mothership, we have level 3 weapons almost done for not only Archons but also for carriers themselves. And once you get to this stage of the game, where you actually have your god tier army of carrier Archon, all you got to do is literally do this. Grab your whole army, make your just put it all in literally one control group, and that's fine. Take your observers, take them out of your control group, okay? Take them out, or at least take one out, and have them follow the mothership. The reason why this is good is because if you don't do this, your observers will fly into spore crawlers a lot and they'll die. But if you have them follow a carrier or have them follow a mothership, they'll always stay in range of your mothership and your carriers to kill creep and shit like that. But they will never run in and die, and then you'll be like, fuck, now I have no detection and I can't go creep anymore. I can't see burrowed infestors. I can't see lurkers, whatever. You can't see stealth units. So just have it follow have at least a observer follow something rather than be in your control group. And if you have another one in the control group, that's fine. Just have at least one follow. And at this point, you can fucking A move. Like, this army right here, if you fight any Zerg up to like Masters 1 or low GM, I guarantee you win the game. Like, or okay, so we'll say this. With this specific army, any Zerg up to Masters 3, I guarantee you win the game. And then if you just get comfortable with this, and from then on you start adding in maybe like 5 Templar or 6 Templar, and you just, every time you fight the Zerg, you go A move. Okay, Templar on a separate control group. Move forward, storm. 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 You'll win the game every time. I get up to the GM level. Like, this army is fucking god tier, because I have max damage already. It's ridiculously strong. And all you have to do now to maintain here is the final thing you could do. Make sure your probes never oversaturate, or make sure they're never idle. I would say also make a dark shrine and just keep expanding as you need to. Like, don't let your probes ever just sit around and do nothing. Just make sure you're always keeping your economy going, and you will easily win the game. Don't ever feel like if you don't take a fight right this second that you're going to lose. If it takes you 30 seconds to set up a new base, go for it. Do that, because this army does not matter if the Zerg is at 200 supply or if he's at 150 or whatever. This army is going to crush the Zerg. It is very hard for Zerg to kill this. And all you do to micro this, when you're like, we're gonna assume you don't have Templars right now, okay? We'll talk about no Templar for now. All you do to micro the Archon carrier mothership is you A move, and the second you see the Zerg and you see where the bulk of his army is, this is all you do. Get ready. This is it. It's very simple. You A move, A move. You're just watching an A move right now. You're like, cool, I'm A moving. Nothing's here to defend him yet. A move, A move, A move, A move. This is nice. We're A moving. Everything's dying super fast. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't know where his army is, but if he doesn't have one, then I guess he doesn't have one. Well, let's just say hypothetically, okay? Okay, let's say this Hydra Corruptor is like a big army from Zerg. All you do is the second you see a big army, you go like that. You T-click it. You do the hotkey of the Time Warp, which is T. You click the ground with it, and you just fight right there. And it's a fucking free win. Oh, it's like, oh, Zerg has more shit over there, and I missed my Time Warp. How about I put it there now? You can have 2 of them with a full energy mothership. It makes Zerg has no answer to this if they don't know how to micro like a boss, and they'll always die. And that's all it is. That's the whole build. And I guarantee you're gonna crush fucking everybody if you can keep up with the pacing of how we did it in this example. And finally, last thing from here. Last thing you should do besides everything we just talked about, once you're level 3 weapons on the ground and level 3 weapons on the carrier, go into shields on the forge and go into armor on the core and just chrono boost that. And then always re-chrono boost your carriers if you ever need to remake more. And you're good to go. And one final thing. If you ever have you struggle to end the game, but you have a fuckload of money, at this point now, you could just add on even more Stargates, and you could add on even more gateways. You could go, instead of having just 5 Stargates, you could go all the way to like 8 Stargates. And instead of having only like, maybe, what do I have, like 10 gateways or like 9 gateways, go to like 16 gateways. Just add on some more gates and some more Stargates. And the reason why this would make sense is because it can, if you ever take a big fight and lose actually a big chunk of army, you could make more Zealots to do more run-bys with. and you could also remax on more carriers at a faster pace. But again, you just keep remaking this army overall. Always make carriers as a priority. Only ever make zealots if you already have all the Stargates in production and you cannot physically make any more supply right now by doing Stargate. So then you just fill in the rest on gateways and you do a run by. Always do a run by with zealots. If it's Templar based, just obviously pair that with your carrier. That's it. That is all of it now. That is the end. How does that feel?
Feels good, man. Feels good.
Nice. I know I talked for a while, and if anything ever, felt bad.
I think I have one question.
Sure.
It has to do with like control groups. How do you like take stuff out of the control group? Because I feel like a lot of times I'll like have like my whole army on a control group and then a probe will end up in it.
So
it just really upsets me.
Let's just say, right now, like, do you so my control group right now is every army unit I have. I have Mothership, I have Templar, I have Carrier, I have Archon, I have Observer. And I'd say I put it in control 1. Now, every time I hit 1, it's going to be that. But if I'm like, you know what, I don't want these Templar in this control group. What I can do is, there's 2 ways to do it really fast and easy. In this subgroup itself, down at the bottom, you can either go hold control and left click a Templar. Now, I only have Templar selected. Now I can hold Alt while I have Templar selected, and I can hit a different number. Let's hit Alt 2. Or Alt 3, Alt 2, whatever. Now if I go back to 1, or what's up?
So you just gotta have like another control group that you can throw them in, basically. Hold Alt.
Yeah, you could do that. What you could do as well, if you're like, you know what, I don't want to have them in control group at all. I definitely don't want to have this control group. Let's say you do Alt and you take them out of your control group, and then you go back to 1 and you then hit Control 2 as well with 1 selected. You could rebind it so that 1 and 2 is the same thing, and you no longer have to control these fucking other units. Another way you can do it is if you have 1 selected, you can literally hold Shift and Control at the same time now. Like, press your pinky down on both of those keys at the same time. Click the Templar. And then now it removes them entirely out of the group. Re-hit Control 1.
Oh, that's what I was trying to do.
And there you go. Yeah, there's multiple ways to do it, but both those ways work. The reason why holding Shift and Control is good, because if you just hold Shift, you have to click every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have only 1, it makes sense to just hold Shift. But if you have like 12 of them, if you hold Shift and Control, 1 click will get it all done really fast. Because what Control does when you click shit is it selects the entirety of what that is. So if I have 15 carrier, it'll select all 15 carrier.
Yeah, everyone on the screen.
Yeah, and that's how that goes for control grouping. Easy peasy. All right, man. All right. Any other questions?
I think that about does it.
Okay. Well,
I think that's pretty good.
Last thing I'll say is, obviously you can watch this VOD. I'll link it to you in Discord, so I'll send it to you by probably tomorrow. But
okay, cool.
Just save the replay when you leave this game. Save it as like a guide. Be like the ViBE build or whatever the hell you want to call it. Just make sure you save it so you don't lose it, and you can always reference it in the future to like compare your own builds to it. And if you ever feel confused about like why it's not working, always come back to this reference and look at the pacing of the clock as to when I have something, and then look at your game and see when you have something. So make it like like literally look at this game and make it like almost like memory as to go, he had carriers by 9 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. Make sure you know that. And if you look at your game and you go, well, I'm making carriers at 13 minutes right now. Okay, I'm fucking late. Like, this is behind, and if I lose, that's a big reason why that is probably happening. I need to fix that.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, take it easy. Much love.
Yeah, that about does it. All right.
Shout out to Strophium again.
Sweet.
And
oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Good luck.
Yeah, hopefully, I don't have the stream open because I didn't want it to mess up my internet. But hopefully
he's there right now. He's having a blast.
Sweet.
He said poggies, so he's
awesome.
loving life.
All right. Yeah. Thanks again, man.
All right, man.
And thank you, Bob.
Yo, take it easy, man. Much love.
Yeah. See you later.
All right. See you, dude.
Have a good stream.
Thanks. All right. Thank you for watching, guys. That's been a coaching lesson with our boy Cop Crusher, Mike Micro, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Mike Micro. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope that helps you in your own lessons. If you guys liked it, just know there's coaching lessons for all races, lots of different divisions, leagues. So if you want to learn more, if you found that like interesting, you can find out much more shit on my YouTube channel. Just check out my coaching sections or my replay analysis sections or my bronze to GM section. They're all over the place. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. And until then, good luck in your own games and peace. Later, guys.